Ukraine may be stepping away from its most powerful security ambition. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has signaled that Kiev is prepared to abandon its pursuit of NATO membership, not because it no longer wants it, but because it may never get it. In return, Ukraine wants something just as consequential: binding security guarantees from the United States and its Western allies. This is a historic shift, and it raises a critical question. If Ukraine drops NATO, will the West truly step in to protect it? For more than a decade, NATO membership was Ukraine's strategic North Star. Zelensky repeatedly described it as the only deterrent against Russia. But the reality has been harsher. NATO expansion requires unanimous approval of all 32 members. Several key states have refused to support Ukraine's entry, fearing direct war with Russia. Donald Trump has openly opposed Ukraine's NATO membership and has pushed Kiev to reach a peace deal with Moscow. From Moscow's perspective, NATO has always been the red line. Vladimir Putin has called Ukraine's NATO ambitions an existential threat. On February 24, 2022, the day Russia launched its full-scale invasion, Putin explicitly warned that NATO's military presence in Ukraine was unacceptable. That red line hasn't moved. Zelensky is not surrendering Ukraine's security needs, he is reframing them. Speaking ahead of talks with US and European envoys, he said Ukraine now expects security guarantees comparable to NATO. His proposal includes bilateral guarantees from the United States, Article 5-like commitments though outside NATO, security pledges from European powers, support from partners like Canada and Japan. In plain terms, Kiev wants legally binding promises that if Russia attacks again, Western support will be immediate and not debated. Zelensky stressed that these guarantees must be endorsed by the US government, reflecting a fear shared by many Ukrainians, promises that vanish without political change. Let's be clear, this would not be NATO. Article 5 triggers automatic collective defense. These new guarantees would not. Instead, they would likely include rapid military aid, intelligence sharing, arms deliveries, financial assistance, automatic sanctions on Russia. Each guarantor country would define its own obligations. There would be no NATO command structure, no standing troops, and no automatic response clause. That makes credibility the key issue. Deterrence would depend on whether Washington and Europe act decisively in a future crisis, not on treaty language alone. Even with security guarantees on the table, major roadblocks remain. Territory is the biggest one. Russia controls large parts of eastern Ukraine, including much of Donetsk. Moscow has demanded that Ukraine withdraw from the areas it still controls there, and Kiev has refused outright. Zelensky also rejected a US-backed proposal to turn Donetsk into a demilitarized economic zone, asking a simple question: who would govern it and who would enforce security? Meanwhile, Putin's advisor Yuri Ushakov has warned that Russian police and National Guard forces would remain in Donetsk even under a ceasefire, which is hardly a sign of compromise. While diplomacy crawls forward, the war grinds on. In just 1 week, Russia has launched over 1,500 drones, dropped 900 guided aerial bombs, fired 46 missiles. Ukraine intercepted many of them, but not all. Energy infrastructure across southern and eastern Ukraine remains damaged, leaving hundreds of thousands of households without electricity or heat. In the Black Sea, Russian strikes have damaged Ukrainian ports and even Turkish-owned food cargo vessels. This is the backdrop against which security guarantees are being negotiated. Zelensky's move to drop NATO membership is a calculated risk. In exchange for giving up a long-held strategic goal, Ukraine hopes to secure guarantees strong enough to deter Russia without triggering Moscow's deepest fears. But the success of this gamble depends on one thing, and that is credibility. If Western guarantees are slow, conditional, or politically fragile, Russia will test them. If they are swift, unified, and enforceable, they could reshape Europe's security order for decades. For now, Ukraine stands at crossroads between a blocked alliance, an ongoing war, and a promise-heavy diplomatic future that has yet to prove it can deliver real protection. The question isn't whether Ukraine wants security guarantees. The question is whether the West is willing to make them count. Thank you for watching. For more such deep dives, follow and subscribe Geopolitical Navigator.